Gazel admitted that he might be a danger to Dwargon, while his ministers debated whether they should eliminate Rimuru or not. On the other hand, Elmesia is extremely interested in the new Demon Lord, wanting to probe whether Rimuru will become an enemy or not. Alongside these two, there are more scenes of Ramiris and Rimuru with her Arvin and Tempest that the anime didn't show you. A lot of content were cut and I will tell you, but before that, if you can, subscribe to the channel, since just like you, I love anime and I do my best to bring the best possible content to my community. We start with the scene in Dwargon at a meeting with Gazel and his ministers. The meeting is, of course, to discuss Rimuru and the entire situation that has been unfolding. The ministers and Gazel were already sleep deprived after Rimuru ascended to a demon lord and of course subjugated Claymon, becoming a political nightmare for them, as they were openly allies of Tempest. And now there is the news about the situation with Hinata. They were now reading reports on what happened about the 100 Crusaders launching an attack in Tempest and of course their defeat. Rimuru's troops won without any casualties, and Gazel has a very good understanding of what happened thanks to his spies reports. Spies whom Rimuru is certainly aware of, as well as the infiltrators from other nations. The thing is, Rimuru allows them to be in Tempest for self-promotion and trade purposes, choosing which ones to keep and which ones to subjugate. Now back to the meeting, they concluded that Hinata's defeat was primarily due to the way Ruberials, a religious country that despises monsters and demi-humans, suddenly decided to form diplomatic ties with Tempest and even establish a formal relation with Dwargon. Because of this, the question was raised about whether or not Rimuru had become more powerful than Gazel, the Hero King. This situation worried Gazel mainly due to his last encounter with Rimuru, where Rimuru was emitting a strange aura. It didn't exude immense or malevolent power, but a calm and peaceful aura with no discernible intention. Even though Gazel had the power to read people's thoughts, now he could no longer see Rimuru's, indicating that the slime had completely control over his power. With this in mind, Gazel assumed that having evolved into a demon lord, Rimuru could indeed rival him, although we know that Rimuru is much more powerful. With Gazel himself assuming this, the ministers began asking if this didn't make Rimuru too dangerous for them, but while the ministers were considering this, Gazel merely sighed. According to the investigations, Rimuru's executives also fought against the 10 Great Saints and won completely over them, with one of them even suppressing several crusaders alone. This means that Tempest's strength has already surpassed Dwargon's. Then, hearing his ministers debate, Gazel began to consider the possibility of eliminating the opposition before it became a serious threat, but he immediately rejected this idea. Rimuru was a reasonable monster, and more important, he wanted to coexist amicably with humans, and he had proven this in various ways. Worrying about Rimuru was unnecessary. The slime had no intention of destroying humanity, and Gazel believed this. With this, Gazel tells his ministers not to worry, Rimuru is their ally, and moreover, Dwargon was the first nation to support Tempest, which earned their trust. He doesn't intend to abandon that trust and the benefits that come with it by adopting Rimuru. Then, releasing a bit of his heroic haki, he clears his ministers of their doubts, reminding them of all the good things in their relationship with Tempest. Additionally, despite his great power, Rimuru still treats everyone else very well, demonstrating who he is. There is also the fact that he is from another world, bringing with him knowledge and inventions that he can introduce to this world. Not to mention Rimuru's subordinates who would undertake any task for him, especially his innovations and new projects. Even things that other worlds had given up to their difficulty, Rimuru could accomplish because he has the power and subordinates to do so. And thinking about this, Gazel even felt a bit of envy. But above the envy, Gazel wants to see what would happen if Rimuru built the world according to his ideals. Of course, this would trigger a Tenma war, but the slime probably already had plans to confront the angels, and Tempest possesses enough military power to potentially defeat the Celestial Army. And of course, Gazel would even support him when the time comes. With that, Gazel declares that even though he doesn't share Rimuru's blood, the slime is his brother, and as long as Rimuru does not lose his humanity, Gazel intends plans to continue supporting him and welcoming the new era that is approaching. Speaking of the new era and technology, the ministers became completely excited. After being stagnant in their research for so long, thanks to Rimuru, everything has advanced quickly to the point where they envy Vesta. So Gazel decided that Dwargon would walk side by side with Tempest and accept the duty of preserving the city's technology in case they were defeated by the Celestial Army. Then the discussion shifted to a rigid invitation to the Tempest Festival, where Rimuru would make his public debut as a demon lord. Gazel was, of course, very interested in this. Initially, his ministers were completely against attending, but after some persuasion and the argument that it would be promote the image of a close relationship between the two nations, it was agreed that he would go. About the meeting in Thalion, although we have seen Elmesia from the beginning, her identity is a secret to the world. Her gender has never been clarified. The people only know that the Emperor was born with the beauty of a woman, with her age also being unknown. Because she has an extremely poor elven blood, she also does not age. She is a living witness of the history of the continent, and it is considered a taboo to ask her age. And while she is imposing in the anime, her body in the light novel is described as small, which is why she's mistaken for a girl if only her appearance is considered. So yeah, the anime give her a glow up. Elmesia is the most authentic of the elven race, being a supreme elf. Normally there would be no need for Elalud to show his letter to the Empress, as Rimuru invited him in person and not Elmesia. But Rimuru's letter makes it clear that he can bring companions, and that is the issue at hand. Bringing guards was natural, and many nobles showed interest in visiting Tempest. However, due to past experiences, where Elmesia became extremely irritated and jealous upon discovering that he had gone to Tempest alone, he came to speak with her. And something that didn't appear in the anime is that Elmesia actually wanted to go to Tempest and was genuinely curious. For her, Rimuru being such an intriguing slime was something she very much wanted to see, especially since he's a new demon lord. In all her years of life, she had never encountered anything like it before. Furthermore, due to her jealousy over Elalud going without her, Elmesia indeed had a childish tantrum, showing that she's quite different from the image of a cruel and relentless empress that is painted by everyone around her. In addition to having to endure her tantrum earlier, Elalud's budget was also frozen by Elmesia, and his technological collaboration plan with Tempest was also suspended. Thus, to return things to normal, he found himself forced to pamper her, which brings us back to him showing his letter to Elmesia. Moreover, if he had gone without informing her, he would definitely face interrogations and Elmesia's wrath. And here in this scene, we also learn about how Thalion operates. The powerful nation is maintained and thrives under the rule of Empress Elmesia. Below her are the 13 noble houses and their leaders. They have all sworn allegiance to the Empress, and in return, she allows each house to have executive power over their domains, while the Imperial House collects tributes from each family. None of the houses have military power either, with the nation's military power being centered in the Imperial House. The Empress is the supreme commander of Thalion's armed forces, and is responsible for mediating interstate relations and fights. Elalud is from one of the noble houses, with his mother holding the highest position among the 13 houses, and she is also Elmesia's grandmother, while at the same time Elalud's brother is her father, making him the Empress' uncle. A long time ago, his brother was killed in a battle against monsters, even before Thalion was established as a kingdom, and before Elalud himself was born. In other words, even though he is Elmesia's uncle, she has been alive for much longer than he has, being the older one. And you can see it is complicated, but in summary, Elmesia, who is extremely ancient, is the founder of Thalion and has been its empress ever since. And for the all-elven political drama, with the other noble houses pressuring Elalud, I don't wanna talk about it right now, so let's just skip it because honestly, it is somewhat irrelevant to us. To conclude, Elmesia says that participating in this event is necessary if they want a friendly relationship with the Demon Lord. They had no choice but to go from the start. Now, moving on to the scenes with Ramiris, let us start with Beretta being fed up with Trainee. Trainee is talented, detail-oriented and hard-working, with a good reputation and even managing Ramiris' labyrinth on her own, something that not even Beretta could do. The problem is that Beretta pampers Ramiris too much, agrees with everything Ramiris says, and doesn't question anything even for a moment, forcing someone else to stop the Fairy's crazy plans, and that someone is Beretta. Beretta, who, by the way, doesn't serve Ramiris for that purpose. Beretta enjoys Ramiris' company and doesn't mind taking orders, so what really worried her was Trainee, who would say yes to anything. So much that when Ramiris suggested going to Tempest, Beretta really tried to change Ramiris' mind, but Trainee obviously sided with the fairy, and the two of them, with their optimism, went ahead with the plan. Of course, Beretta didn't dislike it, because she really wanted to move to Tempest, but with other plans of Ramiris, this is really a nerve for her. And now moving on to Ramiris' arrival in Tempest. First of all, the cabin they were building was literally right in the front of Tempest gates, not on a road, but right at the front door, starting off quite grandly. After that, we have Rimuru calling them for a meeting, and Ramiris ceasing to be a recluse unemployed. That is a joke for the other Demon Lords. And here Ramiris would reveal an obsession with money when they discussed it, which Rimuru theorizes might have originated from the other stating here about being unemployed. So now that he can have money, she wants all the money she can have. We also learn a bit more about Ramiris' abilities, particularly Mei's craft, which is labyrinth creation. This ability is neither unique nor ultimate, but an intrinsic skill, being a racial ability of Ramiris as the Spirit Queen. In other words, this incredible powerful ability exists simply because Ramiris was born. She didn't need to acquire a powerful skill, she was born with it. And as the name suggests, Ramiris can create labyrinths where she is the supreme goddess controlling everything, from affecting people and things outside the labyrinth, to even disarming weapons and armor of nearby individuals. Of course, it has some limits, such as not being able to affect living beings without their permission, but once someone enters the labyrinth or hear about it, the permission is tacit, so she can do whatever she wants. And all this talk about the dungeon reminded me that it has 10 Guardian Lords, and you can check that out too by clicking on this video here. Now, bye bye.